Hi, this is Stacy with Gooseberry Bridge Farm, and today I am starting some seeds in the greenhouse, and I'm going to talk about the weather. Alright, so that sounds a little vague there, the weather. So I'm going to put our forecast over here so you can see what we're dealing with. Our weather is kind of all over the place here in southern Missouri. Normally with our weather, we're worried about getting the seeds to stay warm enough, or the seedlings, the baby plants, in our greenhouses to stay warm enough at night, but during the day, the sun does the job for us. So right now, it's sunny, clearly, and I planned that because I did not want to be out here when the high was, today's the high is like 25 or 30 or something. I don't know. It's really cold. And when it's cloudy and cold, the greenhouse stays cold. It's a little bit warmer because there's no wind, but greenhouses don't just stay warm without the sun. That means at night, the temperature in here quickly drops to about what it is outside. There's a little bit that will stay warmer in here because if it gets warmer during the day, there's heat in the ground and in the bags of soil and other things that I have in here. Those have some thermal mass and hold heat in and release it slowly overnight, but it still gets really cold in here at night. Last night we got down to 12 degrees, I think, and my bucket of water was frozen, my soil was frozen, everything in here it was cold. So what I do to combat that is I have a few different places and practices in place to places to put the plants where there is heat, where I'm not having to heat this whole greenhouse. This greenhouse is 12 by 29 feet, and it is pretty tall. I'll walk you around here in a bit and show you the 3 different things that I do to keep seedlings warm at different stages, all while being able to use the power of the sun, not only to keep them warm when it is actually sunny, but to help them grow better. Clouds and the sun that comes through the clouds is still better than the sun that comes from a grow light, as long as you can keep the temperature situation under control. My seedlings don't stretch or get weak from cloudy days the way they would from inadequate grow lights indoors. The only thing that can be bad if it's cloudy and cool is if you're overwatering and the soil's too soggy and wet. That could be not good. But they don't grow and stretch for the sun the same way they do inside when the lights aren't good enough and it's warm. If it's cold, they kind of just like stay compact and small, more like they would if they were outside and it just wasn't time to grow yet. Now this is, I'm mainly talking about cold weather plants, things that like the cold, like spring crops, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, spinach, lettuce, bok choy, all of those things. And I'm starting flowers for our flower farm, yarrow, rudbeckia, all the cool flowers, chamomile, calendula, bachelor buttons. I know I'm starting more things. Feverfew. I also got some feverfew, but all of these things can benefit from like 65 to 75 degree temperatures for germination, but then they don't mind it to dip into the upper 20s at night or something like that. So I will show you all of what I'm doing, and hopefully it will help someone. As you just saw, I was sprinkling spinach seeds into I'm not sure what to call these, leftover containers. That's what I use. I buy these containers. There you go. What's that? At Costco, and this is what the lid looks like. I used to just use containers that we had already like bought lunch meat in or something, but I don't do that anymore because we don't buy lunch meat anymore, and also because it's better for them to be a consistent size, and I'll show you what the package looks like. So this is how they come. It says 70, but there's 35 sets, 35 bottom, 35 tops. So they, and they're like, I don't know, they're like $7, I think. Anyway, they stack especially well if you put the lid on upside down, which makes them even smaller. And then as the plants start growing, if you still need this on at night, you can do that. It gives a little more room. If you're using these for soil blocks, I don't have any in here, but I do have some in the other room that I'll show you. Then the soil blocks are down in the dirt further. Right now I'm using these to just start by sprinkling on the surface. I can fit 40 soil blocks in here, and if it's something that is able to be transplanted pretty much straight outside as a soil block, like the yarrow and the chamomile and snapdragons, and there are lots of things that I grow in 3/4 inch soil blocks, little bitty ones, that I can just put straight outside from their soil blocks. And it keeps them, you know, nice and neat. Or I can transplant them straight into their other pots from their soil blocks. But for this, I'm starting lettuce, spinach, kale, and I think that's all the greens for my Plant Start CSA spring salad shares, which is why I'm starting so much. I need, from my notes here, I need roughly like 250 to 300 spinach and kale of each, and then I also need 800 or so lettuce plants to fill all my orders. And then I'm also going to need a little extra because that's what I'll plant in my garden. I always kind of overseed something, and that's what I'll plant. So I'm going to be sprinkling the lettuce seeds on these open trays, and then what I do is when the plants are about this big, and they can be really crowded in there, it doesn't matter, then I take the whole thing apart and I pull the little plants apart, and they transplant just fine. People talk about lettuce and, oh, you should direct seed it, it doesn't transplant. Well, lettuce transplants awesome, and so does kale and spinach and all the other spring stuff, which is handy for me right now because our forecast that I showed you a few minutes ago is looking horrible for having things in big trays. So eventually I want these spring salad shares that I'm doing to be in a big pot, and everybody's will be in their own pot, and they'll take a lot more space in my greenhouse, which is fine normally, but right now it is just going to be way too cold, below 0 temperatures. I'm not willing to risk our baby lettuce in that. So if I can keep, like, let's say I need like 30 lettuce plants to fill a little salad share, but I can fit 100, 150 in this container to get them started. And then I can separate them later, and it won't take up near as much space. Plus they stack, and at night I'm going to be putting them in a warmer place where stacking is important, and I will show you that in a bit. We can talk a little bit about organizing seeds while we're here. I have my kale seeds, and it says CSA, my lettuce seeds, CSA. Past few years, nearly all of my seeds that I grow also end up in the CSA, so it's not a huge difference. I've got all these different lettuce varieties in here, Organo Republic seeds. I've got some that I'm not even sure what this is. I've got these window box lettuce mix that I'm going to try this year, because that's basically what I'm doing with the lettuce, is putting it in a window box type thing that people can keep on their deck. This gourmet baby greens from Botanical Interest. This is one of my favorite mixes. I love this one. It's very cold hardy. It says frost tolerant, but it is like beyond frost tolerant. It's really good. And then I've got some other mixes like this one. It's also from Botanical Interest. I haven't really tested that one for how frost tolerant it is, but I've got some more. Also got these. This is Market Day lettuce. This one does not say frost tolerant right there. like the others do. It's not in the folded part either. It has not been as hardy, so I don't want to start that this early. So, oh, I have this one I was going to start this year. This is called Ice Queen. I'm figuring surely that's pretty frost hardy. I mean, it says it is, but anyway, so I'm going to put all these, just take the seeds and I sprinkle out a bit in my hand. I was counting the spinach kind of roughly the first few things, but I'm not counting the lettuce. I just sprinkle it over the surface of the soil and then kind of pat it down so the seeds are making good contact with the soil. I don't really cover them, but I will show you here in a second. Move this out. You can see this one, it's already done. You can still see the seeds on the surface. So normally I wouldn't really care what's what here as far as seeds go. I can find a tag. There, this one has some, I've been trying to reuse my tags. I thought I could wash the writing off, but nothing seems to work. So I just write on them and cross it out so I can use each plastic tag at least 4 times. Unless I happen to find one that is the same plant. Lettuce. And then just put some little, oops, okay, some messy handwriting and some shorthand there so that I'll know which seeds they are in case one does really badly or really good, then I'll know which mix it was. If one doesn't germinate at all or something, I don't want to waste time trying that one again. I'll put the whole packet. The packet says minimum 150 seeds, so I'll go with it. These are a little harder to see than the last one. Some lettuce seeds are white. Well, I guess the sun's reflecting them, it's helping. So I'm just gonna kind of pat it down. Really want to make sure they get in. And then I'm gonna be watering this just kind of around the edges. I have a tiny watering can I've been using. I would normally mist it, but my misting thing is not here. And I keep breaking them. I'll put the lid up. I didn't label that one, did I? I keep breaking my sprayers by leaving them out here in the cold. And then they freeze, and they don't like that. Let's see, that one was Ice Queen. Date on some of them. That way, if I wonder when I started these, why they aren't growing, I'll at least have a date. Sometimes I get really impatient. All right, there's 2 lettuce out of, I think I decided to do 10. I have no idea. Oh, I was trying to read my notes and I'm like, I don't know what this means at all. Uh-oh, dropped my lettuce seeds. I better get those. All right, here's my workstation. I was gonna show you guys one more thing. These are peas, and these are the dwarf peas. These are just the regular size. They're just in separate containers to try to keep them separate. The peas are wrapped in this paper towel, which I'm going to wet. I just haven't decided if I wanted to do it yet, and that's kind of going to soak the peas, which is something you would do usually before putting them in the dirt, but it also will sprout them if given enough time and the proper temperatures, which I'm going to do by putting this all in my germination chamber, which I will show you in just a minute. So, but I'm doing peas this way. Normally I would start peas in soil blocks. Let me show you those. So normally I would start my indoor peas, which freaking cat stepped on it. Anyway, these are supposed to be soil blocks this is with the Swift blocker that I made. These big blocks are 72 here. Normally I would just use a different thing attachment on the soil blocker that makes a bigger hole, or I can just poke a hole with a pencil or something, and then I would put the peas in there, and I grow them in these because they're easy to get apart and it lets the roots develop properly. And then I transplant the peas in just a few weeks, early March or so, and then they do a lot better for me. They do a lot better for me that way than direct seeding them in the garden, because it's so cold. The temperatures and the wetness and all of that, it causes the peas to rot or to not sprout as soon as they would in here. So I get them to sprout, I get them just little bitty plants, and then I transplant them, and then I get peas a month or so earlier than I do otherwise, and usually a lot more peas, because peas like spring weather and we don't get a lot of that here. Right, I'm walking over to my other greenhouse. There's really no reason to have these two, this setup in this greenhouse over the other one. It's just where I had it set up. So this is my germination chamber. It's a bacterial culture incubator. I've made a video about it before. You can make a germination chamber out of other things, because you're probably saying, but hey, I don't have a bacterial culture incubator just lying around. Yeah, we stumbled on this, and it turned out it works really good for this. It's not like the best shelving situation, and you can't fit a whole tray in there, so that kind of stinks, but I've got it set right now so that it stays in the upper 60s, low 70s overnight when it's cold out here, and during the day. Like right now I have it open because it gets too hot if it's sunny, and I just open it and turn it off. But then I'll turn it on again, and if it's a cloudy day, it'll keep it like 75, 80 in there. You can adjust the temperature, it's magical. But there are lots of ways to make an incubator or a germination chamber. You can make one out of an old refrigerator or an old freezer, and just choose your heating element. And I will also show you another way that we do this in my other greenhouse in a minute. But so I'm going to be taking all these baby plants, which I'll show you. These are the mini soil blocks, and those are feverfew babies. These are really soggy, and I really need to dry them out. Those are Rudbeckia. I was hoping they would dry out today. I kind of accidentally overwatered them. These are snapdragons, the same way I started that lettuce and just now. There's some chamomile. It's minuscule, it's so small. And then there's some yarrow in there. It's doing well. So these that have little leaves and tiny plants, which you can see them there. Can't you? Maybe I can get it to focus. Anyway, those will be going to my small greenhouse, which I will show you in just a minute. I thought I was going to retire it this year, but here we are. So there's that way that we keep things warm at night. There's no lights in there. There's no, no grow lights or anything. So they have to come out as soon as the sun is up enough in the morning to deal with that. All right, I'm going to zoom out on the camera here. But the other thing in this greenhouse that you may have just noticed, because I'm showing you, is these tunnels. These are, this is how we keep the seedlings warm at night, moving forward. Once we have a lot of trays, we fill these up, and we use a heater. There should be one in here. I don't know where the kids put it. Oh, there it is. We use these radiator style heaters. I've got a few of them, and I've also got a thermostat, which I will show you in a minute. We plug that into the thermostat and set it on whatever temperature we need it to be for that tunnel, and then it kicks on and off automatically based on the temperature in the tunnel. So I put a heater in each tunnel. Now it's a long tunnel. It's about 25 feet. So the heater in the middle, like, it doesn't heat it all the way at the end. It's just is what it is. I've used fans before to help circulate the air, but that's how I do my tomatoes and peppers and keep them warm enough overnight, probably above 45 or so for the most part. And I have one tunnel like this in the other greenhouse too. But the bigger trays, this is how we will keep them warm, because heating this whole space with space heaters or even higher end heaters is just too expensive, and it takes up too much electricity. Hi, Annie. All right, Yes, Annie, do you want to say hi?
Hello, I'm here.
Yes, Annie is helping me carry trays so that I can talk on the camera. So with all of these, those, and all of those, I'm hoping you can see why I don't use heat mats. So normally, I would start most of these seeds that I showed you today, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, lettuce, all of that, either directly in the trays that they're going to grow in, or in a paper towel in the germination chamber if I need it for just getting them going, and then I transfer them germinated into the cells. It keeps it a lot fuller in the tray. I have a lot less like bald spots that make it hard to sell those plants, and more efficient space-wise. The reason I'm not doing it this time is because of the forecast I showed you earlier. I know that when those paper towel germinated seeds sprout in a few days, that it will be too cold for me to transfer them into trays, and that I don't have anywhere to keep those trays warm enough with it below 0 temperatures. The temperatures we get in March when I'm using these tunnels behind me are more like lows around 20, and my heaters can easily bump that temperature up about 30 degrees. And I know this because I've experimented for years and figured all of this out. If it's -5, it's still going to be below freezing in the tunnels, which is okay for these crops that are frost hardy and all of that, but I want them to grow a little bit faster than that. And if it's 25 in their tunnel at night, not only am I paying to heat this whole tunnel, but I'm my plants aren't going to be growing, they're just going to be surviving. So if I can keep them in these smaller containers, and I can keep them from growing above where the lid goes on for a little bit longer, then I can keep them in a smaller space, which I'm going to show you next, my other space where I keep them. And then I'll transfer them into the trays. It should buy me 7 days, maybe 5 or 7 days. Hopefully by then we'll have a better forecast. All right, now we're in the small greenhouse with this lovely box. So the small greenhouse is kind of a mess because I was planning to tear it down and build a new one to replace it, but I didn't. So here we are. But this box is a known thing for me, and I use it every year. This is the shelf. You'll see in a minute. The box was not really designed for this, but it kind of was. I mean, like I just didn't know what I was doing at the time. It was I've had this 6 years now. So anyway, I'm gonna put these trays in the bottom, which the bottom has some insulation under it, some foam, to try to keep it warmer in there. But the bottom still gets pretty cold. And then we have this little heat lamp. And later in the season, this is like a reptile heating element ceramic thing, so it doesn't make any light. But the lid to the box, as I will show you in a minute, is a window. So there is light getting in the morning before I get out here and take it out. But I'll also put a thermometer in here. So I can't remember where I left off, but later in the season, this will be a regular light bulb, and that's enough heat to heat the box warm enough. But for right now, we'll use this. I will put a thermometer in here, the wireless thermometer that I will be able to see from in the house. And then this light is on a remote outlet, so I can turn it on and off manually. I could hook this up to a thermostat the way I do with the tunnels, but I just haven't, and don't really have enough of them right now to do that. I mean, it's like a $35 thermostat though, so I could totally do that if I wanted to. So as you can see here, my little shelf does not span the entire way of the box. That's because it was an afterthought, but it does work for what I'm doing. I will just line up all my little plants here. I have in the past had plants really close to this. It doesn't melt the plastic. It doesn't hurt them at all. Even when it's like this, I'm actually putting those soggy Rudbeckia I showed you earlier closest to the light, because even with the lids aren't tight, it will dry them up a bit. So it'll help with that, because I tried to dump the water out and the blocks are so soggy, it was not gonna go well. Okay, so that's how we're gonna pack this tonight. When I get into doing tomatoes, which I might have a little clip of, I could show you, I have a slightly different system, and I can get hundreds of tomato seedlings in here, especially when they're tiny and just, and there it is closed. So as I said, this was not 100% designed for this. It's kind of evolved over the years, how we figured out how to get these seedlings to grow in the not so ideal conditions. We are building a new greenhouse this year. You should watch for a video on that. It'll probably be a bit, but it's coming. It's going to be in small-ish, smaller than the big ones, but probably bigger than this one. This one's only, I think this one's 9 by 12. It's going to be like 12 by 20 probably in the middle, and it's going to have, hopefully, if all goes as planned, I'm going to make a set of shelves basically with the same principle as this box, that will be heated by light bulb outlets of some sort, like either heat, that way we can use either these heat lamps. I've also used this box before and put an LED grow light in that outlet, like a shop light that like really made some light for, I think that was the year that I started seeds in January, and there was clouds, lack of sun, and cold, and I was having to leave these the seedlings in the box all day, that I used a grow light in there, and then I decided not to start seeds in January anymore because it wasn't worth it. But moving on, there are some things that I would have to start in January, but I don't, because I don't grow them. But anyway, the box has been crucial in getting things germinated and growing in the fluctuating crazy temperatures. But I'm hoping in the new greenhouse that we will have a whole new setup with the wall, shelves, and I want the shelves big enough to fit a whole tray, so that once we'll be able to fit more when they're in these little boxes, but then once we get into things being in their own trays, I'm not sure how many trays it'll be able to fit, but it'll hopefully fit a lot, and they'll be on the north wall of this greenhouse with insulation and lights and some kind of doors that open and close, and it's going to be fabulous. You'll just have to trust me on that, because it's always less expensive to heat a smaller space. And even the thing that will be nice about having that setup that I'm planning for the new greenhouse is that I won't have to take the items all, or the trays all in and out every day, which is what I'm doing now in multiple locations. And it's not bad right now because there's just a few, but when I get to where I have 30 or 40 tiny little tomato trays in there, and they're growing significantly every day, and I'm having to change how I put them in, and then I do the same thing with peppers, then it becomes like an hour of work a day, and that is what I'm trying to avoid with the design of the new greenhouse. So if you're wanting to do something similar to this, and you're at the beginning stages of planning, I highly recommend that you plan it all out at a time, because I had no idea what I was going to be doing with all of these spaces when they were created. We were more of a jump in and do it and then figure it out later sort of situation. Like, we made that box because I knew the design would keep the plants warmer, and I knew I needed to do that in that greenhouse, and I knew I needed a smaller space to heat, but I did not measure it or do anything to figure out what size it should be. We actually built that box based on the size of the window that we found to use on the top, so that just happened to work out. So that's the gist of it here. We have systems in place, and I know the difference they can make for the temperature, mainly because of that year where I started seeds in January. We had that year in February. No, it was the year before that? I can't remember. Maybe it was the year before that. Either way, one year in February we had minus 18 temperatures after I had started plants, and when that happened I moved the seedling trays inside. But I also had tons and tons of crates full of ranunculus at that point, So I was trying to keep them warm. I put lots of frost cloth on them. I had animals that I had to move into the greenhouse that year because their accommodations were not warm enough. So we had to do some crazy stuff. But because of all of that, and because of my remote thermometers that give me a chart of what the temperature has been overnight, I'm able to learn how my heaters function in different temperatures, and that really has been really helpful in making sure that everything stays warm enough. All right, I'm not really sure where I'm going to stick this in the video, but the forecast is getting worse, so I am changing course here with my my seeds in the paper towels that I was starting. It's really hard to do this with one hand. Probably should have set up my tripod, but anyway, I'm also giving up on knowing. Let's see, there's one that I missed earlier. Let's see, can I focus on the seed? Anyway, it's got a root. I'll put it over here. It's gonna go in that hole. Anyway, I am it's a cat jumping on my greenhouse. I'm giving up on knowing what variety is what also. Oh well. Because I don't want to have that many containers. These can all be pretty close together in here because in theory, I'm going to get them out of here before they get very big. I'm also considering keeping this in a slightly cooler location to slow down germination, where normally I would want to speed it up. But with the weather that's coming next week, they're talking significant snowfall and below zero temperatures at least one day with a high of 11. That's just not that's just not good seed. There's another one. Seed starting weather, as you may have guessed. So I was really irritated last February when it was like the 5th warmest February on record, and it was sunny and warm, and it was like almost too hot for all these things, and everything was growing too fast. So I guess we're doing the opposite this year. All right, I'm gonna go grab all my stuff and go inside for the night. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions about starting seedlings in greenhouses, or anyway how this is done, let me know in the comments.